This episode is brought to you by regret and bad choices.
Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. When we started, we were just like, yeah, we're just going to do this, man. You know, shoot our wad into the wind and see what happens. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
You know, but
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And I don't even know how to start this off. We've got a guy that's kind of a big deal on here tonight.
Yikes.
I know. I'm working you up a little bit, Tom. We just had a very brief conversation.
Thanks, Bill. I like to think I'm a big deal too.
I know. Yeah.
No, Mike is definitely not. I'm not. We know all that. But first of all, we if anyone's been paying attention, hopefully we have Tom Farley on here tonight. First of all, Tom, thank you very, very much for taking the time and agreeing, and for whatever reason agreeing to come on with us Yahoos. That's number one. But introduce yourself real quick. Give us a very brief background, and then we'll get into it. Okay?
Sure. Yeah, Tom Farley. The easiest way to describe it is I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, sharing a bedroom with my little brother, Chris Farley. And it's funny is if you think, the Chris Farley that everyone else saw at like 25, same guy that I'd share a bedroom with. Same thing I had to deal with. So we grew up, I was the oldest. We have an older sister, Barb. I was the oldest of four boys. Me, Chris, and then Kevin and John. And, I kind of grew up with this whole, like my father's an entrepreneur and had his own company. And I got to go into business. And that's the path I chose. And then I turn around and Chris and then my other brothers, like, I want to be actors. I want to do comedy. I'm like, I didn't know that was an option.
Right.
So I went to Wall Street and finance and did marketing, which is hysterical if anyone knows me. And I was out in New York when Chris came out to Saturday Night Live, and I got to see all the good, but some of the struggles too. So I have those stories, but then when Chris passed away, it just was that moment in my life where I took a turn and went down that path, and telling his story, and then eventually having enough courage to tell my own story, and
nice.
What a difference. It's been a long journey. A lot of us in recovery. It is
absolutely
it's a long path, and but if that's the path I had to take to get where I am today, I'd choose that every time. Like as long as I end up here.
Absolutely. Right with you. Right with you. Yeah. Again, we say it all the time. None of us are unique. None of us are special. Yeah. We all have the same damn story. It's just, slightly different circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing we talk about too, is that all of this garbage that we had to deal with. Yours was a little bit, clearly more in the public eye. Obviously the family drama that you dealt with and family situations, but all these things that we had to deal with provide us, and Mike says it all the time, provided us worth, to help people going forward.
Yeah.
And, it's funny that both Mike and I did some research and things like that. We both knew of you, but didn't know a lot about you, which is the other reason we were excited to, obviously get a chance to know you as an individual. We were kind of joking to begin with. We're like, Chris is going to come up in the conversation regardless. And, Mike had said that he's like, yeah, he goes, I know a lot about Chris Farley. He's like, we want to talk to this dude tonight.
Oh man.
And the funny part was in the little bit of research that I did, Mike did the same thing, is exactly what you just said about, and I didn't think about it that way. You were going out, and you said it, going out and telling Chris's story. But then as soon as you started telling your own, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said it started to draw in the audience a little bit more and give people a little different perspective, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, all my life in the same with Chris, like we just wanted to, connect with people. And the harder I tried, and the more and to do that, I didn't know it, but I was controlling everything around me and everyone around me. I was pushing people away, and I like couldn't figure it out. It's like, but that's not what I'm trying to do here.
Right.
And then as soon as I just paid attention to myself, control the things I can control, keep my car in the lane. All of a sudden, people are coming. I'm attracting people. I'm like, what happened?
Exactly.
And I'll tell you, what was really interesting is, as I said, I've been speaking and advocating for years and telling, starting out telling Chris's story, somebody else's addiction, probably helping some people. I'm sure I did, but now the greatest thing is after I do a presentation or talk to a group, more than a number, people come up to me and say, that's not what I expected at all. And I'm like, oh, you like, I thought I was, because you were like, it was billed as Chris Farley's brother. I thought it was going to be funny Farley stories of this. And I all of a sudden I'm hearing your story, and not only that, but I'm hearing my story and your story. And all of a sudden there's that connection I wanted all the time, for so long. It's like, there it is. And all I did was just, be, authentic and rigorously honest. And
right. We get open and honest, and all of a sudden we start connecting with people. Imagine that.
Who'd have thought,
Not me.
Yeah. Wow. So I still shake my head at that,
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it is amazing too that, and I'm sure that when you were going out, and I'm guessing here, but I'm guessing that it was pretty easy to fill the seats going in as Chris Farley's brother. But when you started to, obviously go in telling your story, but then obviously Chris is part of, you're maybe a different audience, but also you're filling people's minds rather than just filling the seats, which is kind of interesting. And both Mike and I have been around the recovery world for a little bit, and it's one of those things. There's a lot of people that say that they don't like getting up telling their story. I mean, I don't mind. I've been around, not speaking engagements like you, but training and that sort of thing for a number of years. It's not uncomfortable, but I feel more uncomfortable in a 12-step meeting than I do in a room full of 50 people, talking about, like you had said, some sort of marketing thing. I still get nerves in those other environments, but it's different because it's personal,
honestly, it is difficult no matter what, because there's a reason why almost every adult fears public speaking, because it's unnatural. It's weird, like to stand up in front of a bunch of people looking at you. And I tell people all the time, it's like, when you see a great public speaker, you're not seeing somebody that is really skilled in this. You're just seeing somebody that's gotten very comfortable doing something that's uncomfortable for everyone, being comfortable doing uncomfortable things. And that's what 5 minutes before a talk, I'm all in my head going, God, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? I get out there, a microphone's in my hand, lights in my face, people are staring at me. I'm like, oh man, I am so comfortable. This is such the right place for me. And I'm off to the races.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, I mean, it's, anytime I do it, it's recovery based now. And, I have a passion for it. So, it kind of comes naturally. I get up there and I start talking about something I actually care about now in my life. And it's pretty damn easy these days.
Yeah, because we've learned to, as I said, you're not avoiding any pain. Life is hard,
Yes.
as I like to say, recovery exists on the other side of fear. And
Mhm.
once you overcome that fear, like I lived my life enough fear in my life, like, so when I get out there and I'm just, telling my story, being vulnerable, just not giving into the fear, man, it's magical.
Mhm.
It's a different feeling I never had.
Right.
That's what people are seeing.
Yeah,
Really.
absolutely. So,
Yeah.
on that subject, all right, when the hell did you get all screwed up?
Oh man. I grew up in Wisconsin. Does that, it's
Yeah.
funny. I like to say that growing up in my family, we checked 3 boxes.
Mm.
We had, from what I've found out now, is a long generational history of difficulty with alcohol and alcoholics, run deep in my family.
Mhm.
We were Irish, and we lived in Wisconsin.
Right.
We only had to check one of those boxes, but we all 3, and we thought it was part of our identity. Like, if you're a Farley, you drank. If
Right.
you're Irish, like, you don't have. You're supposed to. You're like, and if you live in Wisconsin, yeah, definitely you have to drink.
Would you know anything about that, Bill?
A little bit. I lived in. We moved to Wisconsin in 1981. And with the exception of 3 years out in Cleveland when I lived with my dad, and then 3 years out in Cleveland when I got sober, and well, the last 3 years also. But I lived in Wisconsin for 35 plus years, and
Oh, there we go.
yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
actually the funny part is I'm in West Bend right now. I'm in an Airbnb. I came out here. My son and his girlfriend are moving together this weekend. My grandson's birthday is next weekend, so I'm
So
up in
what are we doing
Wisconsin.
here talking? We should be at a fish fry. Like, what? Are
You
you
know what?
kidding me?
I was gonna joke about it. Hey Tom, Madison's only a couple hours away. I could pop in anytime.
Oh man, all right, but I'm gonna get it to it eventually tonight. So
Mhm.
too bad.
Right. Well, the funny thing though is that, and I've been hearing it a lot lately. I listen to a lot of different sobriety podcasts, and I don't know if I'm hearing it more or if it's just hitting me more. But a lot of people are talking about that. Well, I heard three different podcasts, 3 different people that, spent time in Wisconsin. We had a gentleman on a few weeks ago that was
Mhm.
in the Appleton area for a number of years, and I do believe, well, really anything we did, it wasn't planned. Like, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to drink because we're doing this. It just happened to be that, okay, you're going to play golf, of course you're drinking. You're going to play volleyball, of course you're drinking. Going to watch a movie, you're going to a kid's baseball game, you're going to a whatever it is. It's just alcohol was involved. And then in Cleveland, in the in the meetings, what was it? What was the typical person that got up behind the microphone, Mike? He would say, "I'm from where?"
Right. I'm an Irish Catholic from the west side of Cleveland.
There you go.
Yeah, that was the west side of Cleveland. But yeah, it is, and you're right. I mean, Wisconsin's got pick any small town. You could drive through a small town. There's at least 2 churches, a gas station, maybe a grocery store if you're lucky, but 4 bars and
And
maybe
Main Street is just littered, yeah,
yeah,
with
and
taverns.
that's what it is. And then you drive through and you're like, where did it go? But yeah, so we get it. Well, I get it. Mike gets it. He's been around the
Yeah,
Hollywood area too. So,
Mhm.
but
yeah,
go
okay.
go ahead. So you're obviously Wisconsin, Irish, and a Farley. There you go. Strike
Yeah, and
three.
so, and I thought, and so on all those, drinking was, part of our identity, but it also was normative. Like, this is what you do, and I
Mhm.
didn't think I stuck out. And I went to college on the East Coast in Washington D.C., and I'm still thinking, I'm just doing what I do. I'm not sticking out. I must have really stuck out. Like,
Mm.
and it was just, and the thing is, when I got to college, uh, first of all, drinking, when I left Wisconsin for college, I was already 1 year into legal drinking age, which was 18 at the time.
Right.
Right.
So which means I started at like 17,
Sure.
um, so I got out there, and when you're doing that, under the in your parents' house, and you had some kind of you had the bumper rails are up, but
Mm.
in college, like every night was Friday night. Like, I could always find somebody to drink.
Right.
it was just every night. And I, that's how I told myself I was connecting, but I was just in this state of kind of fear and self-doubt. I was at a very high, achieving college, and I was like, what am I doing here? And um, yeah, I just like, that's how I coped. And that's when I also learned that, like, you get me started, there's no off switch. It's like,
Mhm.
it goes, it's going all night. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
So
yeah.
do you think, and Mike and I were just, well, we've talked about it a number of times, but it came up again, what, 2 weeks ago, or maybe even last week, Mike, when and Mike, you had said that from the start you thought you were who you were, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, same thing. Again, not different, not unique, same circumstance. I'm a Polak from Detroit, Catholic, and
Yeah.
yeah, right. And yeah, same thing. The family history of drinking. It was normative, like you said. Same thing, and I always knew from the beginning. I knew I put anything in me, and I wanted more instantly. It was never enough, and yeah, 13 years old. I mean, the first time I got drunk, I was 9. It was my mom's wedding, when she married my first stepdad. And I mean, I got hammered because I was walking around drinking the leavings of everybody's drinks. That's not normal.
Yeah. You know what's really funny is, if you've been around recovery long enough, like, you hear some, and you guys do a podcast, like, you hear some horrendous stories,
Mhm.
Right.
like some really, and here I am, just this garden variety Irish drunk.
Mhm.
But to me, I'm hearing stories. I'm like, but I hear your pain is no different from mine.
Right.
Even though it sounds horrible, I'm like, but I know that pain of
Sure.
isolation. I know
Mhm.
that I get it. It may sound to everyone else like very dramatic, but to
Mm.
us
Right.
in the
It's
rooms,
just,
it's like,
it's normal.
I know that pain. Like, I
Yes.
get it, and I know the relief in recovery that, when that's gone, and you have connection. And so, yeah, it's, everyone loves to focus on the stories, but like, yeah, people are like, oh, you're not all the same. It's like, yeah, we can't, we
Yeah,
are.
we are. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, we can actually listen to, today. I didn't do a lot of research. I never do. I saw the documentary years ago and with you in it. And then I listened to a talk you gave at some library. It was on YouTube. I was working today and I listened to it.
It's local, yeah, local
Yeah,
neighbor.
right. And you were talking about you would go into the rooms and you would go, well, I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad. Yeah, and you talked about Chris. You looked at him and went, well, I'm not that bad, so I must not be an
We did that in
alcoholic.
our family.
Sure,
Our
exactly.
entire family. When you have
Right.
somebody that's that acute, you're like, wow, he's got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Right.
like, I think we all, like, we just didn't see, even though, because our barometer was, how bad it is, and it's like, that's not the barometer. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's why are we drinking? We're all doing it for the same reasons, because
Sure.
we're we have
We have a
trauma.
hole.
Yeah,
We have a hole in
yeah.
ourselves and we're trying to fill it.
Yeah,
Right.
and so it's first couple times in meetings, I'm like, yeah, I don't belong. Didn't last very long, and
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, and the thing is, and I also was like, yeah, I remember thinking like, oh man, really, the rest of my life with these schmucks? No, like, this doesn't look fun. And the
Right.
thing is, and what I say is, the thing is, um, I'm a social person. I loved being out with people, and but now, and I still do that.
Mm-hmm.
But before, I was putting out somebody that wasn't authentic, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought people wanted me to be, and that's where kind of or I was performing, and I wasn't Tom Farley. I was somebody's brother, and
Right.
and so, but now I still want to be out there. But now, like, when I find myself putting that person out again,
Mm.
being that, yeah, like, let's make everyone laugh. I'm like, okay, time to go to a meeting, time to call somebody. Like, I know what to do now. So it's not that I want to stay in the rooms, because that's isolating in itself.
Right.
But it brings me back to what I need to do, because man, it's always ready to pounce, come out of me. Like, it's there. It's not gone anywhere. That person that wants to just mask.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
thank God for my recovery community. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Same thing. I mean, I talk about all the time. Look, I didn't get sober to sit in a church basement for the rest of my life. But I need to go sit in a church basement once or twice a week, so I can go out and live my life. I have to remember that it's not me, it's first step shit. My life is still unmanageable. I say it all the time. I mean, next month we're going to have 15 years sober. My life is unmanageable. I fucking, I need these principles and these parameters and this program to run my life, because I try to run my own life and I'm screwed every time.
Yep.
Right.
And, I literally have seen, when I look back in all honesty, last, years, a couple years, the last many years of recovery, it's like, I have seen my life get better. I've seen that progress, not perfection. And it's because my recovery gets better and better and better every, it's not my life. It's not that I figured out life. It's just that, I'm just like, it's this. I hear something that I never thought of before, that somebody, some guy that has nothing in common with me says something just truly amazing and reflective and vulnerable. And I'm like, wow, okay. How does that relate to me? And that's how it changed. That's how there's that progress.
Right.
Well, and it's one of the things that Mike and I talk about on here all the time, and we've been doing this. We just passed a 3-year mark for doing this podcast, and like you said, I mean, we're coming up on 15 years next month, which I mean it's a long time, but it is and it isn't type of thing. It is, but then we also want to look at it like, we still got work to do. We're not done yet. We're not fixed. We're not cured. But one of the things that we talk about all the time on here is these light bulb moments. So we've been doing this for 3 years. We started doing it basically when we were 11 coming up on 12 years sober, and there was certain things that we started to begin with. Just the only reason we did this was so Mike and I, and we got sober at the same time out in Cleveland. We've known each other for that entire time, with the exception of a couple of days in the beginning. But we got on here for every Friday night. This replaced basically a meeting for us. So we got on to just shoot the shit with each other every night and talk about recovery. So we started telling some old stories and what it was like and all those different things. And then certain things kind of popped up. And I'm like, really? It's just something would pop up. I'm like, I never thought about that before. Or we get into this deep conversation, or we have somebody on that talks about a different way that they're doing it. We're like, wow, this is all cool, And it was a way for us to, number one, obviously communicate. And this has become a huge part of our recovery, but on top of it, all right, so since I don't know when we cut off, and we won't blame Tom, we'll say it's Mike's fault that happened.
I'll take the blame. I am responsible for everything bad that happens in my life.
So what happened? Because we're all transparent and we don't edit anything. That's the one thing we didn't tell you, Tom. We don't edit anything. What happened here is we ended up having to start a new studio because a microphone got unplugged. It shut down the recording, and we had to start up a new studio, which we've never done before. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me ask you this though.
Yes.
Does my audio sound really good now?
Oh, it's you know what? It's ridiculously good, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that happened.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm just saying,
But no, seriously, it's not a big deal. That's now we know what happens if a microphone gets unplugged, that we got to start a new recording, and we now know that we can start a new recording with everyone in the room, and it just pulls everyone over. So, by the way, let me just say this real quick. Thank you, Zencaster.
Thanks, Zencaster.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, we pay $20 a month for this software. It's so freaking cheap, but it's wonderful. But Mike, we were praising them last week. It took me. I couldn't. We recorded on a Thursday last week. I couldn't get it to download, so it completely messed me up. But I mean, I got it done on Friday. It was a software issue. So there actually was a software issue last week.
Blame the equipment.
I email customer support because I'm like, I can't get my damn recording. I see it there, but I can't get it downloaded. So anyhow, I think we were talking about light bulb moments. If not, it doesn't really matter because
It
it is
doesn't.
what it is. But the whole point is that we've learned a lot and we've grown just doing this, not just in the recovery part, but this podcast. I'm guessing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Tom, but I'm thinking that every time you go out and speak or start a new venture, we want to talk about recovery.com. We want to talk about the foundation if you want, talk about the book, whatever you want to talk about. But I mean, it seems like probably anytime that you start something new, you feel growth, right?
Absolutely. I gotta go. Next size pant.
Pants too tight.
Yeah. I'll tell you. Really, this is a horrible story.
Cool.
Good.
So
It's our favorite.
I found sitting in my closet. I had Chris's jacket from Tommy Boy.
Oh my God, really?
And it's just sitting in my closet. Like, what am I going to do with it?
Right.
And, Dave Spade's just always been such a great friend, to all, to everyone, in my family. And I'm like, it's his movie, but it's his movie too, sort of. I'm kidding. So I sent it. I said, I'm going to send it out to Dave. So I sent it out to the Tommy Boy jacket out to Dave. But before I put it in the mail, I'm like, and I did the dumbest thing I ever did. I tried it on, and oh my God, the fat guy in the little coat, like it was funny until like, oh my God, this doesn't fit me. Like it's too small. Like this is bad. The Tommy Boy jacket now is like, now I'm the fat one. Damn it! Yeah, man.
But that by the way, that's one of my favorite movies. I love David Spade too. But the fat guy in the little coat, I've done that over the years, and I'm not a big guy or anything like that. But just putting on a small shirt, if you put on a shirt that doesn't like fit anymore, you're like, fat guy, little coat.
But that's a bit like. The whole time watching Chris on SNL and all these movies, half of it was stuff I've seen like that he at 10 years old doing in front of my aunts and uncles. And like they're paying him for this? Like, and he just would do those little things all the time. And so like, his friends at every level of his life was like, man, yeah, the funny stuff that you saw on screen or on TV, yeah, it was good, but nothing compared to like, he would just always be doing stuff like that. Which is funny to most people. Like, but when I was a senior in high school and he was a sophomore, those were dark years for me.
I can imagine.
Like, your brother is so funny. It's like kind of that Save Ferris kind of moment. Like, your brother is so awesome. Like, I want him dead. No, it was.
So quick question about that. It might have been. I've listened to David Spade and Dana Carvey have their podcast. I don't know if you ever listen to Fly on the Wall, which is it's fun.
My mom and I were on it.
Were you really?
Years ago. Yeah.
I'll have to listen back to it because they're fun, and they I think to begin with the mindset was just having SNL people on there, but they've had obviously expanded. Either it was on there or when Spade was interviewed by somebody else, but he had mentioned something, and I think it was about Chris when he said that either and it might have been you guys that said that I can't believe he's doing that. That was my bit or something like that. Did that happen? Did he do things? Did Chris do things on stage that you did as a kid or your brothers did, or did he steal stuff?
I doubt it because we were this ensemble that my father created that we would just like you ask any one of our friends and they'll say, my friends will say, oh, Tommy's the funniest. And Kevin's friends would say, Kevin's the funniest. Like, cause we just fed off each other.
Right.
Yeah. Sure. Chris kind of went, you push the envelope a little bit more, but no, we were always kind of goofing around doing that stuff. And so it wasn't so much your bit versus my bit. It was just like, oh, we used to do that at the dinner table, so.
Yeah, it's just it kind of made me laugh, but I'm like, it's whatever it is.
But I do present Chris for was my father. I was about to say he didn't like to swear in front of us, but that is absolutely not true. But he would say, like, holy shnikes was his word. He was always saying holy shnikes. And so we all grew up saying that. And then Chris puts it in Tommy Boy. And like, I can't help but not say it. I say it all the time. People are like, that's funny. You're quoting your brother. I'm like, no, I'm not.
No,
I'm
quoting
like,
my
that
father.
was my dad. Like,
Right.
Like, so Chris, he did steal that. That was my dad's bit that we all kind of like had. It was our inside little thing. And he like made it his own. Like, okay, you want to do that? Go ahead.
So you're in college and you're doing your thing, and I mean, I went to 1 year of college, and people,
Okay.
I was joking, say that I didn't drink in college, I guzzled, because that's really all I did. I drank a lot, but same thing. We got there, and I went to UWM Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Commuter college, came home on the weekends because I was working and whatever, and had a girlfriend at the time. But to begin with, it's like, okay, Thursday night was the night to go out in Milwaukee because, again, more of a commuter college. But then it's like, well, something's going on Monday. And then, Wednesday's got something going on. And then, well, Tuesday we can go do this.
Yeah.
And then, Saturdays and Sundays, I usually, I wouldn't get back till late on Sundays. But if I was there on a weekend, then we drank all weekend. It was, to your point, I mean, it was never a problem finding somebody to go drink with or finding a reason to go drink. But so did that, from that point, did it just get worse into your adult life, or was there a tapering point, or how did that happen from there?
Here's the other thing is, like, for the good side is, like, I've always really been driven the most when I am surrounded by smart people. It just motivates me, and I love that. And I definitely got that when I went to Georgetown. Like, all my roommates now are like CEOs. It's a real pain in the ass. So high achievers, and I was just as smart. I wasn't a starter, but I was on the end of the bench, but I was on the team. So, but deep down, I also felt that I didn't belong here. I like, there's no way I'm this smart, and the self-doubt and the fear like overcome the like every indication that, like, no, you are as smart or you belong here. I never believed it, and I had to manage that kind of like self-doubt and fear. That's why I drank. So it was this kind of like push and pull, tugging, a tug of war between, like, I did well academically, but I didn't believe I belonged there. So, it just, I got through, I could have done a lot better.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. My grades could have been a lot better, Mom. But, yeah, I just felt like oh man, the fear was too high, the self-doubt was too high, and so I knew how to manage that. I just drowned it.
So
yeah,
basically, you're saying you're an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, right. And then I followed everyone up, because I wanted the fun to continue. Like, hey, so where's everyone going? It's like, that we're going up to New York and work on Wall Street. It's like, that sounds fun. Like, do you look at your math grades your entire career? Like, you want to go into finance? Are you kidding? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And looking back, I'm like, what made me think I could? But it was New York, and it was fun, and there I was again, surrounded by just high achieving, brilliant people. But then it was just too much. There's a lot of safety built into at every level through college, and then it's all off. Yeah, you're on your own,
right?
And that's when life got a little tough. I had this expectation image of I went to Georgetown. I grew up in this the nice part of town and in Madison, Wisconsin. And so, like, this is what I should have, what everyone else is having, like these jobs and I struggled. I to, I couldn't convince my employers, like, you don't get it. I don't need this job. It's that job. I should have that job. Like, oh, really? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Expectations. Right. And of course, the world owes us everything. So, don't you know
Yeah.
who I think I am? And you deserve to give me exactly what I want.
Yep. Or
Right.
it basically was that, and when I started to, like, got married and started to have kids, like I needed them to be a certain way so that I could be the person I knew I needed to be. So I
Right.
needed to control their, like,
Mhm.
you don't, like, you got to behave this way so I can be this person. Like,
Sure.
what?
Yeah, and
So
it was funny with the whole school thing. So in our mom, and I say our mom because as it turned out, Mike and I are not really brothers, but we become family and we consider ourselves to be brothers. So we've been
Mhm.
around each other so long. Mike kind of became became part of our family. So I ended up calling our mom. So,
Right.
but back when it was just my mom and my sister's mom. I've got an older sister. My mom graduated small class, but she graduated first in her class. My sister was a brainiac in school. Still, I mean, a very intelligent person, but a brainiac in
Mhm.
school. Straight A's, graduated. I forget, top 5, maybe. She'll listen to this and she'll tell me where she graduated. I struggled. I applied to one school, which was UWM, and I got in. And all I had to be was in the top third of my class. And then basically all they did was take on my first semester grades, as long as I did okay senior year, blah blah blah. But the entire time through school, I'm not an unintelligent person, but when you said, it made me think about it. When you said that I could have done a lot better, mom, because I'm like, yeah, I know I could have, but my mom at the time, she'd pick at everything. So I went the other direction, which that was my big character defect, and still can be to this day. If somebody tells me, I've got to watch myself with negativity. I don't Negative motivation can still be
yeah.
a problem for me. If somebody says, you can't do this or don't do that, my thought is that, I flip up the middle finger to them. It's fine. I'll go the other direction. And that's something I've grown beyond that, but it's still not gone. But when I was in high school, I didn't care if she said, you can't do it. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I can't. I'll
Oh,
show you.
I was like that with my father. He just didn't. He wanted to protect me, and that was really more than anything. It wasn't just my friends going to New York. I remember being at dinner in Madison after college, and I said, I want to go out to New York and work on Wall Street. He's like, you'll never be successful out there, and that's way too hard. I think you should, set your sights lower. Thanks, Dad. But I said, like, watch me, and I, like, that's all I needed to hear. And I, like, went out to New York, and just like my father said, failed miserably. So, like, yeah, I hated it. He was so right all the time. I hated that. But not for the reasons he thought. It's because, or maybe, it didn't hit me until I got in recovery and I heard the phrase. And I don't know, is there more dumb phrases in recovery or golf? I don't know.
Yes.
Yes.
But I heard the actions before results, and I'm like, oh wow, because I was always looking for the result,
Right.
and not doing the action. I'm like, why am I not getting the result? It's like, because you're not doing the action to get. You just want the result.
Right.
And now I learned to just do the actions, and whatever the result is from that, that's from you, and that's be grateful. I'm like, oh man, really got to learn that at like 55. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we run into that even to this day. I mean,
Yeah.
there are certain things that I'm still really bad at. I try really hard. I struggle with myself not to, think too far into the future. I mean, we all need to make plans and things, and that's fine. But I need to be really careful not to, what if this, and like almost this future, tripping part, if you want to call it that way, or, thinking the future is going to be dark. And I look at that darkness and that could pull me down. I'm like, well, this and that. And I freak out about everything. And all it does is cause, stress, sleeplessness, all those sort of things.
Yeah, it fucks up the now.
Yeah, it does. And
100%.
that's the biggest thing, is that what we've learned and what we talk about all the time now is, this moment, that's all we have. Mike says it all the time. I have this moment. Who knows what's going to happen 2 minutes from now? But this moment right now, we're having a great conversation, with a couple of people, and who knows what's going to happen. And whatever it is, though, the cool part is all of us have been given these tools, freely given these tools, that even when the bad stuff really hits, we know we can deal with it. It's going to be okay. It's not going to be comfortable. It might be a little painful. Got to walk through a little bit of, hell. But, they always say, if you're going through hell, keep walking, man. You'll get through.
Yeah, I got a great story about that where I really learned that is it was during kind of that break in COVID 2020. My oldest daughter's out in New York, and there was a break in COVID, and like, it's over. It wasn't over.
Right.
But restaurants opened up, and she said, I want to come back to Madison and visit friends and see you and see grandma and all that kind of stuff. So she came back, and now this is my oldest daughter. Like, and so when I was getting divorced, it just was a tough time. And in the house, and maybe her younger siblings didn't see it as much, but she definitely did. And she was like, I'm getting out of here and see you later. But it's my firstborn, so I really care about this, my daughter. And so she comes home, let's go to lunch. And so we go to this restaurant, and the head guy, maitre d', whatever comes up, it was a taco restaurant, so it probably wasn't a maitre d'. And he goes, it's COVID. We still have a COVID protocol, so we don't have menus, but you order on your phone, and we don't have wait staff, but somebody from the kitchen will come out with your food. And I was like, I got a question. Like, it was all like went into boomer mode. And I'm like, if I'm on my phone or my lunch, and my daughter's on her phone or her lunch, but I want to pay for both. Like, how do we do that? And he's like, well, if you really need a paper menu, we can bring one. I'm like, I didn't say that. This is a technology question. And I got really kind of pissed off and frustrated. And I caught myself. I'm like, you know what? I'll have my daughter figure it out. We're good. I'm sorry. So sorry. Thank you. And I looked at my daughter. And I was like, you know what? I'm sorry. I just wanted to be present here with you. I'm so glad you're here, Madison. But like, if you can figure this out so we can eat, that'd be great. And she paused, and she's like, Dad, like when we were growing up, like those things happen all the time. The littlest things. And we just knew to stay away from you the rest of the day because you would carry it around with you. And everyone would pay the price. And I'm like, really? Wow. And she goes, and so to see you and like, so when you started in on this waiter, that old feeling came back. I'm like, oh man, here we go. But then you stopped and you caught yourself and you like, and I went into, because I was going into this, like my recovery, you know what to do,
Sure.
Stay present. And so you caught yourself, and then I saw you do something you never did before. You apologized to the waiter, and then you turned to me and apologized. And I'm like, you saw, I was just trying to work my recovery program.
Right.
And the point is like, if I was so focused on trying to repair this relationship and where I want it back to be, or build it like on my time frame and my terms, that would have never happened. But because I was just working my recovery program, it dawned on me later. It's like this is what relationships look like when they start to heal.
Right.
Didn't think that was possible.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You weren't trying to repair the. Yeah. You were just doing the next right thing, and look at that. It fixed it.
Yeah. And again, is the relationship with my daughter like better? No, it is better. It's not what I wanted it to be or tried so hard for it to be, but it is what it is, and
it is better.
And I get to apply gratitude to that.
Mhm.
Right.
That's another thing that I never had before.
Right.
And how that makes me feel when I identify, like, that I'm grateful
And
for something.
more importantly, how she felt, because she was getting ready to get into that defensive crouch because, oh crap, Dad's doing his.
Oh my God.
Right. And then
that's a gift I gave to her. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. And you weren't
You
trying
weren't trying
to
to do that. Yeah.
No, of course not. You were just doing what you were supposed to do. Like,
Yeah,
I guess those normal people out there do, like, regularly, all on their own.
They don't. They say they
Bastards.
do, but they don't.
Yeah, I've had that happen with it was at a restaurant with my son and I, and this was probably now like 10 years ago or something like that, maybe somewhere in that area. And we were in an Applebee's, so whatever the thing was, there was a thing going on with the service or whatever, and I was having a kind of a stern conversation with this manager because there was a problem with the food, and my son was with me, and at that point figured he was like 14 years old, maybe 13, and all said and done, and we're walking out, and I'm just telling him, I'm like, I can't believe this happened that way, and then I asked him again, he's this 13-year-old boy, he was 9 when I got sober, and I said, was I rude? Was I obnoxious? Did I act okay in there? He's like, no. He goes, you acted fine, man. He goes, that guy was ridiculous. He goes, no, you didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, okay, good. Because I didn't know. And then my ex-wife, and I, my son's mom had rebuilt this relationship. And there was a couple of times over the years, not recently, but we'd be having a conversation, whether it's in an email or on the phone or whatever, and she'd say something kind of like, this is the way this is going to happen. And then it's almost like she stood back with her, with the fists up, ready for me to, not literally, but ready for me to fight her, And I'm just like, okay, that's cool. And she's like, okay. And she just, she's done because
was there a rewrite? What, the script is wrong here.
And you know what, she knows, and she's thanked me, and she's brought it up over the years. But that's the thing, is I conditioned that woman to be fearful of my response, not physically fearful of me, but to be fearful of what's going to come out of my mouth. What are my actions going to be? I'm going to argue. This dick is going to argue with me. I know he is, but I'm going to tell him anyhow. And she's a strong woman. And then it would just like, she would just say something. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, oh, all right. You just walk away. I'm like, that's when you notice it with your kids and all that stuff. We talk about that 10-step action all the time, which is kind of what you were talking about, Tom, is that, knowing that this venom is about to come out of your mouth, and you thought first, and you're like, okay, the maybe the evilness was in your head, and Mike always says that his thoughts are still all kinds of kinds of fucked up over there, but he just doesn't act on them, which is true, or I think I wronged somebody, so I go back and I'm like, hey, I did this, whatever, I said this, and I apologize, and 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, the person's like, you were fine. There was no issue with that. Then in my head, my first thought is, well, damn it, I didn't have to apologize. But to Mike's point, yes, you did, because it bothered me.
Yeah.
And I know better. I know how I acted, even if they didn't,
Yeah.
And it's great. It's gratitude and it's freedom.
It's funny. I got a story about that. I was on a podcast a couple years ago, and somebody asked me to, and that was probably maybe 2 years into my recovery, and they said, well, what's the difference between recovery and long-term recovery? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, can you just let me just kind of figure like, I go, you know what? If I have to answer it, this is the best I can do. It's kind of like when I got divorced and somebody asked me, why'd you get divorced? My answer was, I got divorced because my wife didn't respect me. She didn't support me. She was very self-centered, blah, blah, blah. And I was convinced of that. And that was my story.
Sure.
Then I got into recovery and started going to meetings. And when somebody asked me that same thing, why did you get divorced? I'm like, well, if I'm honest, I guess I wasn't respectful or, supportive either. And I thought that was a really good answer. Like, oh, pat me on the back. But then all these years later, if somebody were to ask me that today, my only answer is I wasn't respectful and supportive. Period.
Right.
Had nothing, nothing to do with her. Like I only can control what I got.
Yep.
You know, my shit is there's enough there to last me a lifetime. And because I believe that and I live that and I act that, like this person who's like we love the same three people on this planet more than anyone else. That was a friend of mine in college before we got married, is now a friend again because I'm not a threat anymore. I'm just, is it the relationship, like I said, with my daughter that I wanted or tried so hard or what? No, but it's what I got. And man, am I grateful for that? Like, cause the alternative is like sayonara. I don't, I'm out of your life then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the changes, and that's an interesting question, long term versus being early in recovery and long term. I guess I never thought about that, but and I'm doing, speaking of math, because you were talking about math before. I'm just putting these two times between these two episode cuts together. What do you think, Mike? Quick break.
Absolutely. We will be right back with more Sober Not Mature with our wonderful guest Tom right after these words from our sponsor.
All right.
Hey everyone, it's your friends at Sober Not Mature.
Hi there.
And yes, it's both of your friends this time. Hi Mike, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Bill?
I am doing well, but we do have a purpose. We actually usually talk about our one website, but we actually have two websites now. So two websites in one. All right, so everyone knows we still have the podcast website that is www.SoberNotMature.com. And we just launched the store website, so we also have that. Do you know what the website address is on that one, Mike?
Of course I don't.
It's pretty easy, Mike. It's www.SoberNotMatureShop.com. But from the podcast website, you can still hit the store link and get into the web store, or you can access it from our Instagram page through the highlights. We've been posting quite a bit about it, and we'll continue to do that. But do you know what's on the second website, Mike?
Well, there's a store. There are products that you can purchase for you and your loved ones.
Well, Mike, do we still have merchandise?
We have merchandise. Well, we got T-shirts and coffee mugs and all kinds of crap.
And one of the coolest parts, we also do have all the recovery books from Hazelden, which is kind of a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, at least for us. So all the books that we read, God Grant Me, 24 Hours, the Big Book, the 12 and 12, all of those books are available for sale on our website. And once again, that store website is www.sober.
Trying to help, man.
I know you are. You're not helping, though. Okay, now I got to say www.SoberNotMatureShop.com. .com. Visit that today, or visit the podcast website, which is, again, the podcast website. So
www.SoberNotMature.com.
Did you just say sober but not mature?
Yeah, sure. Write that down.
Yeah, like fucking mush mouth or something. All right, everyone. You've suffered enough with this, and we'll get back to what we were talking about previously. So visit the websites, though. All right, everyone. Welcome back. And see, Tom, that wasn't that painful, was it?
No. That's fine. Just sit still.
Yeah, that's all you got to do is sit still for a couple of seconds, minutes, whatever. But it's
that used to be difficult. It's not so bad now.
Right.
No, you're absolutely right. There are people out there that are saying that's not with the Farleys. No, it's never. It's impossible.
We had that conversation a couple of months ago, wasn't it, Mike? We were talking about sitting with our own thoughts and stuff like that, and then remembering how because Mike always talks about that he enjoys his alone time. I do a lot of traveling now. I spend a lot of time by myself. I work remote and all those sort of things, and the certain things that I know. Well, I couldn't have done the job I do now while I was drinking. I would have been drunk drunk all the time, and I got to be on the
could you
phone so that
imagine? Jesus.
Oh
Yeah.
no. But
Well, I drive a truck for a living, so yeah, I definitely couldn't do that drunk.
Yeah.
Right.
Good call.
But
Good
just
call.
being able to sit, whether it's driving in a car, driving in your truck, Mike, with the radio off or whatever, sitting for a while, just quiet, or just sitting someplace and having quiet time for a minute. I like to be active and moving around and stuff like that. But the biggest thing, it's amazing to think about the fact that we are not afraid of our thoughts, of our mind anymore, of
Yeah.
just sitting with it, which is, I mean, again, talk about a gift and freedom again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny. So I was like 2 years into all of this when COVID hit, and I remember just people it just off the rails. Like they couldn't handle. It just shows you how connection is important.
Right.
There are people struggling. Really, they're getting in fights in Walmart. Throwing off airplanes. Still are. And I pivoted to all of a sudden. I found some meetings that were virtual, and I could connect anytime I wanted. I got through COVID I gained connection during COVID. It was the most
Right.
wonderful time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Mike worked the entire time as you were considered an essential worker. I worked for um, a collection agency at the time, and we collected medical debt. They considered us to be essential. Our company didn't have to shut down.
I have a
but
different word for that, but okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, right.
But I
You and me
lived.
both, Tom.
I lived in Germantown at the time and worked all the way down like towards the Third Ward in Milwaukee. And I mean, my commute was a breeze. It was 25-minute commute that turned into, as everyone got back to work, it's like 45 minutes then. But the whole point is that two things. The recovery community, it was so beautiful how the recovery community took on that. But that's kind of what we all do, right? We're supposed to, when these things come at us, we all have the tools. So what are we going to do so we can all stay sober? And so everyone pushed online, which was cool. Granted, a lot of people. And we know of people, that dropped off and couldn't handle it and didn't have a solid foundation. And I mean, that was a great wake up call, and that's just not necessarily a great way for other people. But then there's other people that actually got sober, like right at the beginning of the pandemic, in this lack of getting out in front of people. Which I'm not saying I couldn't have done it, but the fellowship is what kept me going back and stayed, within the sober community and the sober living facility at that time. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But given the flip, I don't know that I couldn't have done it. It was just, for me, it was more comfortable having that fellowship. I don't need it as much anymore. I still love it, but I don't need to be around people as much anymore. But again, that's that time, that's that comfort. I'm okay with myself. And again, you build this foundation where, but that's the whole point. It's practice, it's, progress, it's all those sort of things. Even having that foundation.
Yeah. Well, even more than that, it's like, it's like, before people were coming, and addressing their issues, and there was one solution. The formula was, this is it.
Right.
You do this. If you got to go to treatment, you go to here. Otherwise, here's 12 step, and that was it. And that's just not. People have different levels of trauma. They're all coming in differently, and if you go into that thinking like, oh, here's the solution. You're like, but that doesn't work for me. And so we have all these tools now, but it's still difficult to find, like the right place, and I guess this is like kind of where I kind of pivot into like this
Please.
A truly amazing place that I found here in my hometown. I joked, I used to work for like a financial services company. It's even bigger joke. I work for a tech company now. That's even like, it's with a bunch of like 20, 30-year-olds. It's very funny. But this recovery.com, just finding people, and it's patient focused, finding the right place is, and the thing is, it started treatment. like fine treatment, which
Mhm.
has its own barriers as it is. Every treatment place is different. Just as everyone's addiction is a little different. So
Sure.
that's great. But then what was really neat, and it's a startup here in my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. So it's built. It's a really cool tech solution, a digital solution, but it's built by like these people with this Wisconsin DNA, which is, it is crazy. This beautiful, crazy kind of, it's just something different. So I love that. But I remember I sat down with the founders who built it. And it was called something else before. It was called Rehab Path before when I first learned of them. And they said, they wanted to have me come, do some outreach for them. And they said, yeah, what was really weird is a year ago, we had the opportunity to buy the domain name recovery.com. And we're like, and we're just a startup. And like, should we, a lot of money, and when should we do it? And they just, a leap of faith, they did it. And had an immediate effect on the business, and it also clarified kind of their mission and vision. But both these founders looked at me and they said, and then it hit us, oh my God, we just bought the domain recovery.com. Like, we've got to honor that and be that. Like,
Right.
it's just like, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, I have to work for you now. Like that, like I heard that. I'm like, yes, finally somebody, there's so much focus on treatment because that's where the money is. I get it.
Sure.
But recovery is this wonderful, beautiful, it just opens up to this, it's the rest of life stuff, and we're still trying to honor that. We're still building out the backside of up front is treatment, but on the back is this recovery. Which, what does that mean? Peer recovery, sober living, all these things. Man, we're just getting rolling. It's just going to be an amazing, tool, I think, for people seeking not just addiction recovery, but mental health, everything.
Right.
It's great.
So how long has the organization been around under the first name and the second name?
Yeah, well, it started in 2017.
Okay.
It was a couple guys that worked at a marketing firm, and they had a client that wanted to build a kind of web solution, and so these guys built it kind of as a tool for their client, and they beta tested it in India of all places. Because there's a ton of people apparently. A lot of English speaking people, and they are good tech, support. And so let's build it here. If it works, and let's bring it everywhere. And it did. It was huge. And so now it's a global reach, but very much in the U.S. So. Yeah, I mean it's so 2017, and last year we were named of the 5,000 companies in the Inc. magazine, 5,000 fastest growing companies. We were ranked 192, something like
really?
that. Wow. Yeah, like it's obviously, and it's not because so much of like, oh, they're doing amazing things in technology. It's needed. People are there have been more searches in the last couple of years, increasing every year for people looking for help, and and not really find it's like throwing darts at a board. It was hard,
right?
And we're trying as fast as we can to deliver this to the people that are looking for help, and at the same time, which is really cool, helping like treatment centers that don't know the technology part, like really helping, because they're focused on behavioral health, and like let's help you get your website and your digital tools together, so that between you and recovery.com, you're getting the right people, and you're not like just wasting their time with like 2 weeks of assessment or waiting period, waiting lists, and you know what, you're not the right person, and
Right, absolutely. Or, or you go into some place thinking that it's what you need and it's not. Right. You need something different. Absolutely.
And the best thing is I've always had people calling me up like, man, you know what, I've seen you, I want what you have. Or I've got a nephew that really is not doing so well. Like, what do you suggest? And try to be of service, and, knowing a little bit of knowledge, I gave him an answer. But to be honest, like, I don't know your nephew or what they need. Like,
Right.
But I felt I had to give you a resource, and 9 times out of 10, it probably wasn't the right one. Now I get to say, you know what? Go to our website, find the right place. But now let me do what I can do for you. Like you mentioned, your family's going to have a intervention for your nephew. Like, do you know what that's going to be like? Let me help you with. Let me tell you what that's. What, and maybe some of some help that you might need as an affected person. So like, that's I'm good at. That I can do. But finding the right place like that, that needs a higher level of expertise. And I think it's wonderful that I've actually worked for that.
So if somebody
resource.
goes on recovery.com, then they can search out, different types of recovery, or is it, because I know you said treatment first, is it more treatment focused, or can somebody look at, they just wanted to join a meeting or find a recovery group, maybe something, because there's a lot of people out there, you alluded to it, like outside of AA, that people are looking for instance.
Yeah. So, let's start with just, treatment. Like, first of all, like, even better. So we've got this search part of but we also have a resource area, like, with all this knowledge base of people telling their stories, to articles on, like, what does my insurance really pay for, and do I have to pay for, or what are these DBT that, therapies that I keep telling me about. So it's all this knowledge, and what that does is it gives that control and that agency back to the people that are, that need the help. It's like we go around asking for help all the time. Help me, find this place for me. Like, and we're still lost, and and have no control, feel our life, or no control over our lives. And so let's start to build some of that back into, like, no, you know what do you want? What are you looking for? Like, I'm looking for just, a 12-step, residential, in the Midwest. And here's the insurance I have. And you know what? I kind of have a job that, I got to stay connected with. So, like, where can I, like, bring my phone? Because that's not a thing. And, like, whatever it is, like, and here's some candidates. Here's some people that you can start with, rather than just what's closest to me.
Right.
And that's the interesting part too. And whether you're talking about the whether it's the Gen Zs, to the young kids, all the way up to, Mike and I. What do you say, you're in your late 50s, Mike?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
58 is your late 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 58. I'm 56. But I mean, I'll be honest with you. I would much rather. I'll spend 15 minutes looking for something online before I'll pick up a phone.
Of course,
I would rather do that, and I think a lot of people are like that. And there's a podcast that we had one of the gentlemen on here from Sober Friends podcast. His name is Matt. He's younger than us. I think Matt's in his 40s, maybe. If I remember correctly, maybe early 40s, maybe. But very kind of tech driven. It admitted, he says he's nerdy about a lot of things, and he's very active in his AA groups in Connecticut, I believe is where they live. And he's always talking to the groups and saying, hey, let's try to get an online resource. We got these younger folks, we got all this different stuff.
Yeah.
He's trying to pull, some of these groups away from pamphlets. He's like, nobody wants a damn pamphlet anymore.
Oh my God.
And I get it. Okay. But there are, you can find meetings through an app and all those sort of things, but it's hard to move, in a group like that, like Alcoholics Anonymous, that it works. Don't get me wrong. It works because it's been around for a number of years, but it works very well for Mike and I had done it for years, and a lot of other people. But there's another whole other generation, or maybe folks that are our age, that for whatever reason dip toes in over here, but want to find something else. That's the beauty of, technology. Why not use it to provide this help and these resources to these folks, right?
We just did, and it's on our website. We just did a really amazing study on the state of recovery, and we identified trends based on what we're seeing on search and things like that. And one of them was AI, this growth in AI, and how it's going to really help us. And a lot of us, I can't even spell AI, so. But it like, can you imagine like a mother calling in and say, like, here's my son, he does this and that, and just this rambling kind of statement like that she's leaving on a answering machine, or even talking to a human that's going like, just what's your insurance, like, what do you like, but all of a sudden you're talking to an AI it translates that and brings it back to the treatment center. Like, this is what this person is looking for, and no one has to go through this, and it gets right to what you need. So that person now gets a call back. They go, I know exactly what you need.
Right.
And you wouldn't have gotten that if you just listened to, like the way, like I'm doing now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Right. Point you to a church basement. Here's a cup of coffee and a donut. Yeah. You're fixed now.
Yep. Sit down and shut up, and I'll tell you when you could speak.
Right.
And you know what? That worked. That worked for us. It still works for me every once in a while. I need to be told when to sit down and shut up, and somebody tells me when to speak.
Man.
So AI is kind of. So we're involved with. Have you ever heard of the Sober Curator, Tom? If you have, perfect. If you haven't, because we've been partnered with them for a couple of years now. Actually, 2 years now, Mike. 2.
About that.
And so they're a recovery-based website. Her name is Elise Bryson. She started it a handful of years ago, and it's mainly for folks that have had. It's not that it doesn't cater to the new folk, but mainly, how do you continue to live sober type of thing. So. And like, for instance, we'll more than likely your episode here will be since we partner with them, unless you object, we're gonna have Elise post this episode on that website to get more play for it. Okay, but she is one that she lives with AI, with their descriptions, with all these different things, and writing the articles and their SEO and all this stuff. And it blows my mind, because there's a website called alcoholfree.com that picks up our podcast, just automatically somehow start picking it up. And it writes an AI description based on what I do for a description, but also based on a transcript, which sometimes I laugh my ass off at, because I'll read them off to Mike. I'm like, listen what they said about us. AI talks way nicer about us than we really are.
Right.
But some of it, I'm like, that's kind of cool that they pulled that out of there, just from the conversation. Or, you do a Google search. If it's a relatively common topic, you get before you get your search results, you get the AI breakdown, almost like for us old folks here, you get the Cliff's Notes version that AI gives you of all the searches.
I'll tell you a funny story. So
and I'm like, that's cool.
We had a company who I retreat a couple of months ago down in Florida, and our CEO, one of our CEOs, who's just absolutely off the charts, brilliant and just amazing guy, was doing kind of a tutorial on kind of Chat GPT and how we could use it. And it's so funny. He was like, it's like you could see in his face, like he was trying to teach us, like one letter of the alphabet. And he was like, all right. But one of the drills, he said, like, go on your, whatever the system is, and he goes, and like, take like DBT therapy, whatever, and ask it to explain it to you in like, what it's some other way. And so we paired up, and I was paired up with a colleague of mine. He said, let's explain, DBT therapy like it's Shakespearean sonnet.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And it did. And it really explained it to us in this way. And then I went, okay, ChatGPT, that's how smart you are. So I went over to the corner. I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, I typed in explain DBT therapy at you were the character Matt Foley from Chris Farley, and within seconds, you first of all you go down. I'm like, I was reading it in his voice, and I'm like, yikes, okay, this is scary, but now I understand, DBT therapy.
Right.
Thank you, Chris.
It's crazy. When I was doing some work on a website, and when I designed Squarespace now has AI enhanced design capabilities and all that stuff, and it's like, how do you want this to look, and how do you want this explained? And you could do these. Okay, do you want your website to be serious looking? It'll change color, font, and tone. And I'm like, that's weird. And it's like, do you want it to be more upbeat and cheerful? So I did that. Then do you want it to be really funny and off the wall? And I'm like, this is ridiculous, because it's giving you the same information, but literally speaking to you in whatever language you want to get across to this. I didn't want the website to be stuffy. I didn't want it to be all the way on the goofy side, but kind of somewhere in the middle. And it had that. And I'm like, this is insanity. I've done it with a couple of articles that I worked with. Some recovery articles, quite honestly, that I wrote. I'm like, I want to write about gratitude in this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then I would get this whole article written. And what I would do is I would chop it up and take, because I've got a voice in my writing, and there's a way that I write that I've been sort of criticized by a couple of people over the years, saying you're too flippant with this. You don't want to do this. You're acting as though, kind of like you don't care type of thing. I'm like, that's my personality. It's not that I don't care, but I have a kind of like a take it away type of approach in a lot of ways that I write. And I learned that from my dad. It's a sales technique also. But I'm like, you cannot try to change my voice. I said, if you want to take my article, then just write it I'll be a contributor, but I'm not putting my name on that. But what AI did is it gave me an outline, and that's where it helped me with a lot of my writing over the last couple of years, is that I still put it in my voice, but I'm like, it would have taken me 2 hours to look up all these different points, and I'm getting, I can get links to stuff if I want to actually say, okay, this is where I got this from, and, credit it to. And I'm like, this is wonderful. I don't understand the full use that I could have with it, but I haven't taken the time either. But it's ridiculous. It's amazing.
Well, it's funny. That you kind of describe my, style in talking to groups. All companies were like, what's your PowerPoint, your presentation? It's like, I don't want a PowerPoint, because I don't want to give people knowledge and information, because they're just going to forget it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to remember me.
Right.
I want to have a connection. And Chris taught me that. My brothers taught me that actors, know your audience, connect to their audience, and and they'll walk away I don't really remember what he said, but boy, do I feel differently. And maybe I'm going to do a little extra work on his company, or I want the connection.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
the emotional connection.
Yeah. And what you just said, what's different every time pretty much for me is the audience. So, maybe my voice and my style isn't going to connect with an audience, but maybe AI can help me with that.
Right.
Here's my audience, and this is what I want to do. I want to connect the way I always do. And you just kind of gave me some really cool, you're going to really, either that or you're going to mess up my presentation.
Well, you know what? I take zero responsibility if you do bad. I'll take all the credit if you do well, Tom. And please,
you know what?
It's my last name is pronounced Lindela, so just make sure you pronounce it right. Give me the right credit. No, but seriously, you can take if you had a presentation like that and you were speaking to, because you just mentioned a corporate group, versus if you were speaking at and don't want to say a comedy show, but a lighter crowd,
Yep.
there could be a different way to, because it sounds to me like you want to leave an impression on people, make sure whatever information, as the kids say, lands with them. And again, I'm not going to say I'm not going to irritate most people, but I may not connect with everyone the way that I come across. But I think that would be or could be an advantage, especially in writing or speaking. Yeah, like you said, dialing into the audience that you have. I don't know.
Yep.
I've never tried to rewrite, let's say a presentation in that, but I don't see. I know it would work. It's just a matter of how it comes across, right?
It is funny when you get the value. So every once in a while, you get a group that'll give you evaluations back, and there's always one like he couldn't keep. I couldn't keep track of him. He didn't like he wasn't funny enough. Like I love that one. That was a good one. You wanted Chris. I got you. But I remember the first time I talked to a school counselors group, these teachers, and one of the feedback was like, he had no handouts. Like, yeah, thank you very much.
There was and I did
mimeographs.
Yeah, exactly.
Those Xeroxes. I did training for a number of years for at one point for companies, and I actually worked for a group, so we went around the different cities and did training. And same type of thing. You get these. And this group was this very particular. Granted, because they were sending us as instructors out doing all this stuff. The feedback was critical, and I always scored well overall. It was on a level of if top 5 was the top, I'd always score on average 4.5 plus, on everything.
Yep.
Never below that. So, I mean, my scores were fine, but you'd be in the same room of people. It's all hotels, it's all hotel conference rooms. So in the same conference it was too warm, then it was too cold. Okay. Same room. He was too animated. He wasn't animated enough. He told too many jokes. He didn't tell enough jokes. He didn't connect to anyone. He seemed like he connected with all of us. And I'm like, you guys were in the same room, but I mean, that goes to show how different we are as human beings. I mean, you cannot, it's unbelievable how you can get that type of reaction, but you're never going to connect with everyone, but you're always going to connect with the people who really want to hear what you have to say. I mean, that's all we can hope for.
Before I came here, I worked for a treatment center doing outreach business development. And the first time my boss, head of business development, heard me do a presentation in front of like really important, clinicians and, doctors. And she's in the back room going, what's going on here? And afterwards, she's like, you were all over the place. It was hard for me to kind of keep track, but all of a sudden you tied it all in at the end, and it just all of a sudden made sense to me. I'm like, yeah, get used to that. I mean, right. I can't explain it, but like you wanted me to have a PowerPoint. Silly you.
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'll bring it around. There's a radio show I listened to for years. They said sometimes we forget what we were talking about, so we just keep talking until it makes sense.
Yeah, there you go.
Mike and I do that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much the gist of this show.
Yeah, just keep talking until it makes sense, or until the time runs out. One of the two.
Yeah, or if it doesn't make sense, make it funny and make it fun. What the hell?
So a couple of quick questions. So are you still doing do you still have the Chris Farley Foundation? I guess I didn't look into that much.
Yeah,
that's number one. And then the book, if you want to talk about the book that you did some years ago.
I started out going into schools, and again, I wanted, the Chris Farley Foundation was formed because I wanted to talk to teens and young adults, and that meant going in schools, but like all the programs were all education based because that's what a school does.
That's what they do.
Well, I don't, and delivered by professional teachers. Like, okay, That's not my lane. So I looked at my brothers who all went through Second City in Chicago and learned improv. Connection and acceptance and building trust. And I'm like, oh man, that's my tool. All these kids have all this knowledge in their head, but they don't know what to do with it. So I went in teaching improv, and it was about as simple as you can get, but it was fun. But then I wrote my book, the Chris Farley Show, and this was in '08, and um, people didn't want me to do programs, and plus it was very time consuming. But they want keynotes and presentations, and so I switched to that. And I don't need a foundation for that. I can just do my thing, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's amazing. Like I look at that book now, and like I know so much more about Chris, about myself, about recovery. It's like, but it gave me this platform to go out and talk. And now it's going to be a movie.
Nice.
Yeah, which is exciting. People keep asking me about the movie. I'm like, I don't put that thought in my head. I'm a movie producer now. Like, no, you're not. But there will be such great recovery and addiction and treatment. There's such great themes of the stuff that. So I can't, like I used the book. I can't wait to use the movie in the recovery space and open up that conversation a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, the more we can
really
talk
neat.
about it, the more we can bring it into the light, the better it's going to be.
Right. Well, and that was in some of the things that, and I thought I had heard about it then, but obviously in doing some of when I was looking, kind of for the YouTubes and that sort of thing for you, I saw that are they calling that a biopic? Is that what they're calling it?
Biopic, yeah.
Biopic, okay.
It's some medical thing that you.
Yeah, it was like biopic. Biopic.
Yeah, biopic. I can't see it very well.
Biopic.
And it was interesting. I was talking to a couple years ago when Josh Gad. Who's just a very funny actor. It's going to be his first time directing. You know Josh Gad is, right? Yeah. You ask anyone under a certain age, it's like he played Olaf in Frozen. Oh, right. That guy.
Yeah.
So Josh went round and round. It's like I see it as like a story between a father and a son. It's like, oh no, don't go there.
Right.
No, please don't do that. And then one time I was talking to him. He goes, I think I got it. And I go, what? He goes, well, there's this period of time when he went from SNL to LA, and he was at the top of his game with SNL, and then he kind of lost his connection and his he was isolated again in making movies, and so he had amazing talent and just all these demons like were in this compact time frame. He goes, I don't want to do like this birth to death, but maybe some flashbacks. And he goes, and I kind of thought like, who else was like that? And I was thinking like Bob Fosse, and it dawned on me like, what does Chris Farley's All That Jazz look like? And I went, oh man, if you deliver that,
that's nice.
Do that. Yeah. But don't put him in like leotards or anything.
Right? Yeah. Well.
I mean, he would have. He'd do it.
Of course. Well, yeah.
But I just that whole that whole kind of All That Jazz, like
right,
genius, but wow, tormented. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah.
So when is it? When is that slated to be out? Or is it just like in the beginning of it?
Yeah, we're still finishing up. I think the script. I don't know. Like I just sold them the rights to the book. So, but we have a great writing team. The guys that did Daisy Jones miniseries, and I think Fault in Our Stars. They're really good writers. They're finishing that up. I think it's just about to get greenlit, and once it's greenlit, I think the last I heard, they'll start filming in like September maybe, and get it out by the end of the year. I have a feeling I've been waiting so long, and then this is typical Hollywood. Then all of a sudden it's going to be like, lights, warp, factor 6, and like, but
yeah,
that's the way they work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And last time I checked, we're powerless. So
thank you. You know what? 100%. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, and I like I said, I obviously saw that and a couple other things, but and what I'll do, and I'll obviously have all the which anyone who's listening now will see the links to it. I'll try to put a link into the foundation, recovery.com, obviously the book and all those sort of things. And I've already got your Instagram page, tagged and stuff like that. But I had one last question to remind me of, actually, it was, again, a David Spade interview that somebody was talking to him, and David was talking about, obviously, getting towards the end with Chris and the same type of thing, how he was struggling and all this sort of stuff. And, somebody had said to him, and they didn't mean it this way, but you kind of know how David Spade is, but he's like, person's like, so did you see some of this stuff coming on? And Spade's like, oh yeah, so now it's my fault. They're like, no. But I mean, that's kind of the typical question that we get, is, didn't you see something? Couldn't you have done something? It's a lot of times it's outsiders, and I'm sure you guys were asked that question. It's a painful question. It's a ridiculous one, but
you don't think we as a family felt that way?
Right.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's one of the first things I wanted Dave to know, is that, like, and just all of his friends, like, there's nothing
Right.
you can do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing of, like, you gotta, it starts with you,
Mm-hmm.
no one can make you, do anything. You've got to do it for the right reasons and believe it. And, it's hard for people that still struggle. I see it, and, like, man, it's,
Well, it's generally people that don't understand what it is. They
Right.
don't truly, and I'm glad that they don't understand what it's really like to be addicted and to, have all those things. Right. I'm glad, but of course they don't understand. No, it's, as a wonderful friend of ours here in Cleveland always says, it's an inside job. And that's exactly what it is. We've got to do the work. We've got to look inside ourselves and find out what the hell was missing that we were trying to, again, filling that hole. And, once we start to do that work, that's when we can start getting the results. But, a lot of us don't want to do that work. We don't want to look inside. We don't want to see that emptiness. And,
because and that's what, those are the people that cling to, like, oh, this is recovery is just about, being sober, and sobriety is like, no.
I believe I read somewhere alcohol is just a symptom.
Yeah. Like, I may have gone into the rooms thinking, like, I need some distance between my drinking and me. And maybe it was a little bit more about sobriety. But when I started to realize, like, no, it's not. It's like, you just need the clarity of sobriety to do all this other stuff. Like, and that's, like, it was funny. I did a tour of prisons a couple years ago, and talking to people in recovery, and this one kid raised his hand after my talk, and I go, yes, you and the green. they're all
right.
And he goes, what do you do about the cravings? Like, I'm kind of in a controlled environment now. It's like, oh, you notice that? Okay. But I'm worried when I get out, like, I still have these cravings to drink and stuff. I'm like, I go, honestly, I never had that question, but, like, if I had answered, like, that's not what I crave. This feeling that I have now of my authentic self that comes from being vulnerable and honest and grateful, like, that's what I crave. And when I get far away from that, I'm like, that's what I crave. I'm like, what do I got to do to get that back?
Right.
Do I got to go to a meeting? Do I, do some meditation, spirituality, whatever it is? But, like, that's what I crave now.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. The peace and serenity. Yeah. It's way better than all that other crap.
Nothing to do with drinking. I don't crave that at all.
Right. And I mean, we talk about it on here all the time. I love people that go, oh, I never think about it anymore. You're a fucking liar, man. I was an alcoholic for, well, I'm still an alcoholic, but I mean, I was an active alcoholic for 40 years. I mean, yes, of course I have the thoughts, but, and then I do that wonderful thing. I play that tape through and I go, okay, fine. So you go and you have a drink, or you go and you take a shot or a snort or whatever. Then what? Yeah. And I go, yeah. Then that peace and the serenity goes away, and I no, thank you.
It's funny. I was just at a conference, and I went out to dinner with a colleague of mine and a couple other people, and afterwards it was like, desserts. And I'm like, yeah. And so I saw something on the thing, and there was like I said maybe I'll have a coffee too, and then I saw like this coffee drink that had like a thing of ice cream in it. I'm like,
right.
That sounds good. I like
yes,
all
it
of that.
does.
And so my colleague and I both had it. We took a sip. And I started on the ice cream. She goes, "Oh my gosh, this has got alcohol in it." I'm like, "No, it doesn't." And it did, but I'm like, I didn't taste it at all. I was so excited about the ice cream. I'm like, that's like gas. I don't even taste it anymore. But I'm glad you warned me.
Right.
But then I looked at her like, does that mean I got to give this back? Can I keep the ice cream? Can I just eat the ice cream? It's like, no, we're going to give it back. And we're like, and get other ones without that. Yes.
Can I scrape the booze off the ice cream?
Yes, we'll get you a regular coffee, cold brew with ice cream in it. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. But it was weird. I didn't taste that at all, and it's not like, and thank God I did, because that there was a little panic in me, but
sure.
But I was like, yeah, that is so in my rearview mirror, all of that.
Yeah.
God, absolutely. Thank God.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and that is the one thing, we were in a controlled environment, in a sober living facility, not a lockdown facility, but still, you're around safe people and all that stuff. But, the cool part is that, it's like once you get the, that initial detox, both Mike and I went through detox. Once you get that initial, stuff out of you, that initial detox done, granted, it takes a little bit for your body to get back in shape, blah, blah, blah. But, then that's when the work starts, that's when you got to start. If you do nothing, that's for people, dry drunks and unhappy people and all those sort of things. It was so much more, again, back to what Mike said, just a symptom, so as you get farther away from that, and as you've done the work, and that was my first thought when that question would come up to you, is that, like you say, I mean, you're chasing all these different things because you've done the work. Hopefully that young man does the work so that he's got other things and realizes that, like Mike and I said, we might get 20 minutes of extreme pleasure out of drinking or using again. And then everything else is gone. We just blew up. I mean, we're looking outside, everything else is blown up, but here we are for our happy 20 minutes. And then it's all gone. Everything else is just gone.
Well, I mean, but I it scared me at first, but the whole concept of like this authentic self and how it, I brought people back into my life. Like, why would I ever, want that to go away? And cause that's what I drank before is to not have that person. I didn't know who that was, and I got a question out of college once recently. A student was asking me about marijuana and like, what's your opinion on this? I'm like, first of all, like, I grew up with a little bit more organic kind of product, so this is not organic. This is like made at a lab in Jersey, but the thing is, like, like, if it prevents you from being your authentic self, then why are you doing this?
Right.
It's not harmful. It's like it is if you're not putting out a authentic, rigorously honest, grateful, humble person. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, for me, I always say, well, if I smoke a joint, then I'm going to get thirsty, and then I'm going to go get a handle of vodka. Then that's not going to be enough, so I'll go get some heroin. But that's me, and there are plenty of people that can have a beer or smoke a joint, or, there's those crazy people out there that can do a line every 6 months, or, a couple, and have a party on a Saturday night and then get up and play with their kids the next day. That ain't me.
It's not me either. Nope. All right. So Tom, in kind of in wrapping up here, anything else that either you want to share that you want to let people know. Once again, just to recap, I'll have as many links as I can to all the things we had talked about, the foundation, the recovery.com, obviously the book. I've got your Instagram page. I'll have that tagged in it. Anything else that you want to share?
I just love, as I said, this I don't know what you call it, a digital resource, whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's like, and it's not just meant for somebody seeking treatment. It's like, it's um breaking down stigmas and barriers more than anything else, and knowledge, giving people knowledge, and like such amazing inspirational stories. Like, I don't think when they built this web resource that there was any a clue of this whole kind of world of recovery waiting for them, on the other side of treatment. Like, matching people up to the right treatment is amazing for everyone. Like, it's efficient and it's saving lives, all that kind of stuff. But as I used to even tell the clinicians in the residential program I used to work with, they're like, I know you're saving lives. That's great. The people are in the middle of the deep end drowning, and you got them to the edge of the pool, but that's all you did. This is rest of life. If you're not sending them out the back door with this, like, okay, but you're not done. You're not even close. You're just, this is rest of life.
Right.
And it's a beautiful life. You're going to love that. And I think that's what, not only do we deliver that with the matching up the right treatment with the right right person, the right treatment on the front side of recovery.com, but this whole backside of recovery, and just what an amazing thing to connect people, all of us. And it's not just all of us in recovery. It's just us to everyone else. I think everyone, our communities need to see us walking around going, wow, we wrote that person off. It's like, yeah, no kidding. I wrote myself off. Like, isn't this amazing? Yeah.
As we love to say on this program, we're just trying to make our little corner of the world a better place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So, Mike, have you thought about how you want to wrap up?
Well, Tom, we had this discussion since you're like, kind of a thing and whatever. Should we do our regular ending, which can get a little ribald?
It's mouthy. It has a lot of F words in it.
Right.
Okay.
But you know what? Yeah, I think you can handle it. So thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. Thank you very much, Tom Farley, for coming on and hanging out with us and sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us all. And as always, kids, go out there, do something nice for somebody else this week. Be a good person, do something for somebody else, and don't tell anybody you did it. Now, from the bottom of my heart to the depths of my soul, from the beginning of time till the ends of the earth, always and eternally, fuck you. And now it's time, kids. It's time for you to fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off till you get to a gate with a sign on it saying, you cannot fuck off past here. Climb over that gate. Dream the impossible dream and keep fucking off forever.
We talked about that beforehand. Not sure if we wanted to do that exit, but then we've got along so well tonight. So
I know, you don't scare me. You don't scare me. It's funny. I literally was in a meeting today, so I'm launching a podcast for recovery.com.
Nice.
Called the Recovery Cast, and we're starting to interview some people. And the question came up like, should we swear? And like, we're kind of, we're attached to a business. Like, probably not. But if our guests, it's okay if our guests do it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to encourage that.
Please do.
Open that door and like, you don't know what you're dealing with me, do you?
Right.
So we'll see where that goes. But I will try to keep keep it, keep the filters on. But
Right.
it was refreshing to hear you choose a different path.
Well, here's just a brief kind of a run back. So we've done, this is episode 160 actually.
Mm-hmm.
When we started off, I think it was episode 4, right, Mike? When you said we were trying to figure out a way, because we started all this stuff literally on just a whim, and
Mhm.
I'm like Mike, how do we end this? Like trying to think of something cool. I was thinking of Anchorman with the fuck off San Diego or whatever he says.
And we talked about that today.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but Mike says, he goes, all I can think of telling people is, tell them to fuck off. I'm like, well, let's do that. So then our sister gave us the second half of that ending, the go to the gate sign, all that stuff. And then one of our other good friends that we had on as a guest from Colorado gave us the other part. So we started adding these things in. And Mike just said it like a month or so ago, because I'm like, we were talking about whatever. And I'm thinking, it's, I don't know, whatever it was, other podcasts. And I said, it's so nice that we don't have to answer to anyone,
Mhm.
and it's kind of the egotistical alcoholic in both of us. And he goes, Mike's like, yeah, we're kind of like punk rock. We're just out there doing our own thing. And I'm like, man, that even made me feel better, because once again, we started this just to have a conversation with ourselves. And, granted, having somebody like you, and again, the whole point, you're Chris Farley's brother, and we talked about Chris Farley tonight, but man, what a great conversation just with you.
Mhm.
And that's
Thank you.
that's what this shit is all about, is just having a conversation with another individual in recovery. And
Garden variety drunk. You said it, and it's my favorite way to describe myself.
yeah, exactly.
Well, you said you started this by having just a conversation with the two of you, and I have a feeling now that you're going to probably end that way as well.
Mhm.
And I wish you luck with that. You're going to enjoy that. It's just the two of us again. Here we are.
Yep, exactly.
These are the kind of this means so much. We need to do more of this. It's kind of what I want to do
Mhm.
with, I just love talking,
Yeah.
life,
Rigorously recovery,
honest,
all of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So Tom, and then remember, Kyle, we've got a guy in the wings over here. Kyle, don't hang up yet, Kyle. And Tom, don't hang up either. Mike, I love you, brother. Tom,
I love you too.
Thank you
so
very
much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been so great. So goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. And now it is time for you to fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off until you get to a gate with a sign on it saying you cannot fuck off past here. Climb over that gate, dream the impossible dream, and keep fucking off forever.